Hello everyone, welcome back to Dugout Daily. I'm Charlie and today we have another video. In this one we have previewed the match where bitter rivals Manchester City and Manchester United do battle in the 143rd FA Cup final as we reunite under the famous arch of Wembley Stadium for a repeat of last year's Manchester Derby showpiece. Before we get going, make sure to like, share and subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. Dugout Daily, the football channel, hit the Apex the F1 channel and at MCFC Hips on Twitter. We will get going then and start with the FA Cup form of both teams. So both teams have had 5 wins out of 5 in the FA Cup so far this season. Last time out then, starting with Manchester City, we beat West Ham at home 3-1 on the Sunday at 4 o'clock in the Premier League. Before this game, Manchester United travelled to Brighton at the same time and won 2-0. City have scored 96 goals in the Premier League this season, whereas United have scored 57. Next up then, we will move to the head-to-head. We will start then last season on October the 2nd, 2022 at 2 o'clock. It finished Manchester City 6, Manchester United 3. Phil Foden opened the scoring for Manchester City in the 8th minute as Erling Braut Haaland made it 2-0 in the 34th minute. He then got his second in the 37th minute and Phil Foden got his second in the 44th minute. Anthony got one back for Manchester United in the 56th minute as Erling Braut Haaland secured his hat-trick in the 64th minute. Phil Foden then secured his hat-trick in the 73rd minute as Anthony Martial scored a brace with goals in the 84th and 91st minutes. And then on January the 14th, 2023 at 12:30, with both of them games being in the Premier League, it finished Manchester United 2, Manchester City 1. Jack Grealish opened the scoring for Manchester City in the 60th minute as Bruno Fernandes opened the scoring for Manchester United in the 78th minute and Marcus Rashford scored in the 82nd minute. And then in last year's FA Cup final on June the 3rd, 2023 at 3 o'clock, it finished Manchester City 2, Manchester United 1. Ilkay Gundogan opened the scoring for Manchester City in the first minute as Bruno Fernandes equalised with a 33rd minute penalty. Ilkay Gundogan got his second of the game in the 51st minute. Stefan Ortega and Rodri were booked for Manchester City in the 81st and 90th minutes as Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Fred were booked for Manchester United in the 49th and 79th minutes. Moving on to this season then, on October the 29th, 2023 at 3:30, it finished Manchester United 0, Manchester City 3. Erling Haaland scored a brace with a 26th minute penalty and 49th minute goals to make it 2-0 to City as Phil Foden scored the third in the 80th minute. In the book that day for Manchester United was Andre Onana in the 26th minute, Sofyan Amrabat in the 42nd minute, Anthony in the 92nd minute and Bruno Fernandes in the 93rd minute as Phil Foden was booked for Manchester City in the 42nd minute. And on March the 3rd at 3:30, it finished Manchester City 3, Manchester United 1. As Marcus Rashford opened the scoring for Manchester United in the 8th minute. Phil Foden scored a brace with goals in the 56th and 80th minutes as Erling Haaland secured the 3 points in the 91st minute. In the book that day for Manchester United was Erik ten Hag and Raphael Varane. Next up then, we will move to the form as Manchester City have won our last 6 games, with that run being a 4-0 win away at Brighton, a 2-0 win away at Nottingham Forest, a 5-1 win at home to Wolves, a 4-0 win away at Fulham, a 2-0 win away at Spurs, and a 3-1 win at home to West Ham. Manchester United have won their last two, but only two of their last five, with that run being a 4-2 win at home to Sheffield United, a 1-1 draw at home to Burnley, a 4-0 loss away at Crystal Palace, a 1-0 loss at home to Arsenal, a 3-2 win at home to Newcastle, and a 2-0 win away at Brighton. Next up then, we will go to both teams' top scorers. Manchester City's top scorer then is Erling Haaland, as he scored 27 Premier League goals and 40 in all competitions. His last goal was away at Tottenham in the Premier League, as he scored 2 that day on May the 14th. He's got 5 braces, a hat-trick and the quadruple this season. Manchester United's top scorers this season are Bruno Fernandes and Rasmus Højlund, with 10 Premier League goals and 16 in all competitions apiece. Bruno Fernandes' last goals were at home to Sheffield United in the Premier League on April the 24th, as he scored 1 of his 2 braces on that day. Rasmus Højlund's last goal was away to Brighton on Sunday. He scored a brace this season. Next up then, we will go to Pep Guardiola's comments on Erik ten Hag's job at Manchester United. Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola has said that he has huge respect for Erik ten Hag and believes that his Manchester United side have suffered due to the volume of injuries that they've had to contend with this season. The Red Devils have endured an underwhelming season, and their lowest ever Premier League finish in 8th was confirmed last weekend, despite winning 2-0 at Brighton on the final day. Manchester United's defence of their Carabao Cup was ended in the 4th round, while they crashed out in the group stage of the Champions League after finishing rock bottom behind Bayern Munich, Copenhagen and Galatasaray. The pressure has subsequently been mounting on Ten Hag, who in his defence has continuously addressed the fact that he hasn't been blessed with a fully fit squad throughout the season, which he feels has hindered the club's progress. Manchester United will lock horns with Manchester City in the second successive All-Manchester Derby FA Cup final on Saturday, and they know that a place in next season's Europa Conference League can only be secured if they beat the holders at Wembley Stadium. I should say that's the Europa League, with Chelsea dropping down to the Europa Conference League if Manchester United win the match. Ahead of the 143rd FA Cup final, Guardiola has acknowledged that any manager at the highest level is in trouble if they aren't winning matches, but he understands the frustrations that Ten Hag has had when selecting his Red Devils team this season. In big clubs like United, City, when you don't win, you're always in trouble. I would be in trouble if we didn't win, Guardiola said at a press conference on Friday. Ten Hag has done many good things. I have huge respect for his job in the past and now at United. I completely agree when I listen to him when he says that they haven't had a full squad this season and had a lot of injuries. I think this is the most important thing they have to think about, because I'm always focused that we have to be fit. Otherwise, we can't use the players. They had a lot of problems, and when that happens, the manager suffers a lot. The squad is really good, but the problem is when you can't use them. This is a big disadvantage. Asked whether Ten Hag is under pressure going into Saturday's final, Guardiola added, I don't know. Sometimes it's an advantage. Sometimes if you feel under pressure, you perform better. A week ago, champions of the Premier League, it can give you an extra for the confidence, or maybe can give you completely the opposite, to be too much relaxed. So you never know. Protest is tomorrow, 3 p.m. Be ready. This is the point. While Manchester United are bidding to win their first FA Cup since 2016, Manchester City are looking to become the first English team to win the league title and FA Cup in consecutive seasons. A week on from clinching an unprecedented 4th Premier League title in a row, Guardiola has been impressed with the focus on his citizen squad as they attempt to make further history on Saturday. The fact we can do back-to-back doubles, of course, it's important, said Guardiola. The FA Cup itself is the FA Cup. Wembley, our fans going to London. The players know it's the last game of the season, the last effort. I've been impressed with how good we trained after a few days off. The people are so focused. Everyone wants to be involved and we will do our best, that's for sure. I have to decide a few things, the doubts, the lineup, and then go. Manchester City beat Manchester United 2-1 in last season's FA Cup final, while we've also won both home and away in this season's Premier League by an aggregate score of 6-1. Next up then, we will move to the match preview. We will move to the match preview then, and the two sides may have been polar opposites in terms of consistency in recent years, but having both now reached this fixture in successive years, 2024 marks the first time since 1885 that the FA Cup final has been contested by the same two clubs in back-to-back seasons. That's 139 years ago. Manchester City emerged victorious last year and are vying to retain England's oldest trophy to hoist it aloft for the 8th time in our history, while the Red Devils are out for revenge and are seeking to get their hands on the prestigious prize for a 13th time. This time last year, Manchester City were marching towards a historic treble, with both the club and individual stars breaking a plethora of records along the way. Although our aspirations of retaining the Champions League came to an emotionally exhausting and earlier this season, as we lost on penalties to Real Madrid in the quarter-finals, we remain on course to etch our name into the history books on the domestic front for the second time in the space of just 6 days. Despite the best efforts of challengers Arsenal, who pushed us right to the final day, Manchester City have been crowned Premier League champions once again after beating West Ham 3-1 in front of a carnival atmosphere at the Etihad Stadium on Sunday, as we became the first team in English top-flight history to win 4 titles in a row. The Citizens made the perfect start as Premier League Player of the Season Phil Foden scored twice in the first 18 minutes, including a stunning second-minute opener. Mohamed Kudus' spectacular bicycle kick on the stroke of half-time was the only real moment of magic from West Ham all afternoon against the dominant City outfit, who sealed the 3 points and the title when Rodri's long-range strike nestled into the bottom corner just before the hour mark. Manchester City's relentless drive to succeed season after season has been instilled by manager Pep Guardiola, who continues to cement his status of one of, if not the best coaches the beautiful game has ever produced, having now won 6 Premier League titles and 17 trophies in total during his 8 years at the helm. Guardiola has been rewarded with a Premier League Manager of the Season and has admitted that he's now running out of things to achieve at Manchester City, and with his contract set to expire in 2025, the Catalan has stated that he's closer to leaving than staying, hinting that next season could be his last at the Etihad. The 53-year-old was, however, reliably informed by Gary Lineker last weekend that he can create further history with Manchester City in Saturday's Wembley showpiece, as no team in English football has ever won the top-flight title and FA Cup in consecutive seasons. The Citizens could complete the league title and FA Cup double for the 3rd time, something that's only been achieved previously by Manchester United and Arsenal in the history of English football, as Manchester United did it in 1994, 96 and 99, and Arsenal did it in 1971, 98 and 2002. Such records and stats are in danger of becoming engulfed by all of the other remarkable standards set by Manchester City in recent years, but the possibility of achieving in the space of 6 seasons something which only 2 other clubs have managed in English football history shouldn't be downplayed. Arsenal were in fact the last team to win back-to-back FA Cups and have won a record 14 trophies in total, as they did that in 2014 and 15, with Manchester United second on the all-time list with 12, while Manchester City can move into joint third with 8 alongside Chelsea, Liverpool and Tottenham if we can come out on top this weekend. Since losing 3-2 to Liverpool in the semi-finals of the 2022 World Cup, Manchester uh, the 2022 FA Cup, I should say, sorry. Manchester City have won each of our last 11 games in the competition, scored 34 and conceded only 5. Guardiola's men have navigated our way past Huddersfield, Spurs, Luton, Newcastle and Chelsea to reach another final this season, as we edge past the latter 1-0 in the semi-finals last month, courtesy of a deflected strike from Bernardo Silva 6 minutes from time. Manchester City boast a club record 35-game unbeaten run in all competitions dating back to December the 6th, and we have every right to be optimistic of success against the Manchester United outfit, who we've already beaten twice in the Premier League this season, 3-0 at Old Trafford and 3-1 at the Etihad. The last time we beat our rivals 3 times in the same season was back in the 1969-70 season. Although the citizens are regarded as firm favourites to win Saturday's final, Manchester United can never be written off entirely in a Manchester derby, and there's arguably more riding on this fixture for the Red Devils, and particularly manager Erik ten Hag, who has come under mounting pressure to keep his job following an underwhelming season. Manchester United enter their 22nd FA Cup final, which is the most by any team in the competition's history, knowing they must beat Manchester City to qualify for next season's Europa League after their lowest ever Premier League finish was confirmed last weekend in 8th, despite beating Newcastle and Brighton in their final 2 games of the season. 4 days after securing a 3-2 win over Newcastle at Old Trafford, Manchester United snatched victory against the wasteful Brighton outfit on Sunday, with second-half strikes from Diogo Dalot and Rasmus Højlund sealing a 2-0 win. However, victory wasn't enough for them to climb above the Magpies, who beat Brentford 4-2 in their final day fixture to secure 7th on goal difference. Ten Hag has continuously highlighted the fact that his Manchester United side have been hampered with injuries and illness throughout the season, but that serves as no excuse for a number of below-par performances across all competitions. In the Premier League, the Red Devils have been condemned to a club record 14 defeats and end the season with a -1 goal difference for the first time in 34 years. They also mustered their second lowest points total with 60 in a 38-game season. Last season's Carabao Cup winners crashed out in the 4th round to Newcastle this time around as they lost 3-0 on home soil, while the less said about their disastrous Champions League group stage campaign as they finished rock bottom and below both Copenhagen and Galatasaray with just 1 win from 6 games, the better. The only competition that has brought an element of joy to Red Devils supporters this season is the FA Cup, but then again, they've not made it easy for themselves. After edging past lower league duo Wigan and Newport in rounds 3 and 4, Manchester United claimed a slender 1-0 fifth round win at Nottingham Forest thanks to an 89th minute header from Casemiro, before coming out on top in an all-time FA Cup classic to beat rivals Liverpool 4-3 after extra time in the quarter-finals, as they showed a greater level of desire and hunger that has lacked in several games this season. Championship side Coventry were then standing in their way at the semi-finals, and although they were leading 3-0 heading into the last 20 minutes, the Red Devils nearly threw it all away as the Sky Blues remarkably forced extra time, where Victor Torp was denied a last-gasp winning goal by VAR. Manchester United eventually prevailed on penalties, but most of Ten Hag's players were embarrassed to celebrate after scraping into the final. Ten Hag has vowed to fight for the FA Cup and end their grueling season that hasn't been good enough on a much-needed high, but securing silverware at the expense of Manchester City might not be enough to save his job ahead of an expected summer overhaul by minority shareholder Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Indeed, reports have grown stronger in the days leading up to kick-off that Ten Hag will be sacked regardless of the result, with speculation that the Red Devils have already opened talks with prospective replacement after being forced to accelerate their plans due to Chelsea targeting similar managerial possibilities. Manchester United enter Saturday's contest having lost 6 of their last 7 meetings with Manchester City in all competitions and conceded 21 in the process, and they've lost each of their last 3 in a row. However, the Red Devils have come out on top in 5 of their last 7 FA Cup encounters with the noisy neighbours, although both defeats during this run were at Wembley, including last season's final when a brace from Ilkay Gundogan, including a 12-second opener, condemned Ten Hag's men to a 2-1 defeat. Next up then, we will move to Manchester City's team news. We will move to Manchester City's team news then, as fresh from being crowned as Premier League champions for the 4th season in a row, Manchester City will tackle bitter rivals Manchester United in the FA Cup final on Saturday afternoon. Pep Guardiola's side beat West Ham 3-1 on Sunday to secure the league title, and we will now be aiming to make it a domestic double for the season. Manchester City beat Manchester United 2-1 in last year's FA Cup final, with Ilkay Gundogan netting a brace, and the two Manchester Giants will now lock horns once again for silverware. Here, I have rounded up Manchester City's latest injury and suspension news ahead of the contest with Manchester United, who ended their league season with a 2-0 win at Brighton. Ederson suffered a fractured eye socket during the recent Premier League clash against Tottenham. He was absent against West Ham on Sunday and will again miss out for Guardiola's team in the FA Cup final, so the Brazil international won't return for Manchester City until next season. Next up then, I will go to the predicted 11. Manchester City keeper Stefan Ortega is set to start between the sticks for Saturday's FA Cup final showdown against rivals Manchester United at Wembley. Ortega has had to play second fiddle to first-choice shot-stopper Ederson ever since he arrived at the Etihad Stadium in 2022, but he's a regular in the cup competitions for Pep Guardiola and is seemingly a guaranteed starter now that Ederson is ruled out with a fractured eye socket. Captain Kyle Walker had the honour of lifting Manchester City's record 4th successive Premier League title last weekend after the Citizens beat West Ham 3-1 on Sunday, and he's expected to keep his spot at right back, potentially joining Manuel Akanji, Ruben Diaz and Josko Vardiol in a 4-man defence. Star midfielder Rodri, who holds the record for the longest unbeaten run in club football history at 74 games, is expected to continue in the middle of the pitch and could be joined by Mateo Kovacic if Guardiola opts to begin with an extra midfield body. The Catalan coach began the win over West Ham with Jeremy Doku on the left, and although he impressed against the Hatters and could keep his place against the Hammers, and could keep his place against Manchester United, his starting spot may come under threat from Kovacic, and his inclusion would likely see player of the season Phil Foden, who has scored 6 in his last 4 starts against the Red Devils, operate out wide. Kevin De Bruyne could therefore continue in the number 10 role, with Foden at times drifting into a central position to link up with a Belgian, while Bernardo Silva, who has scored all 3 of City's goals in their last 2 FA Cup ties en route to the final, set to play on the right side of attack. Few will be surprised to see leading marksman Erling Haaland lead the line for the Citizens. The Norwegian has scored 38 goals in 44 appearances across all competitions this season, including 5 strikes in just 2 FA Cup outings, all scored in a 6-2 win at Luton in the 5th round. Haaland's just 1 goal behind Ellis Sims and Sami Schmodics, both in the race for the FA Cup Golden Boot, as they're both at 6. So the predicted 11 for Manchester City is Ortega in goal, Walker, Akanji, Diaz and Vardiol as a back 4, with Rodri and Kovacic in midfield, Bernardo, De Bruyne and Foden behind Haaland in attack. Next up then, we will go to the Manchester United team news. Before we go to the team news, Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola has talked up the outstanding influence of Manchester United captain Bruno Fernandes ahead of Saturday's FA Cup final at Wembley. The Portuguese playmaker has contributed to more goals than any other Red Devils player across all competitions this season, and he's one of the first names on the team sheet for manager Erik ten Hag, as he's got 15 goals and 12 assists. Fernandes has been a standout performer during the latter stages of what has been an underwhelming season for Manchester United, as he scored 8 and provided 3 assists in his last 11 matches across the Premier League and FA Cup. The 29-year-old scored from the penalty spot as United suffered a 2-1 defeat to Manchester City in last season's FA Cup final, and he has since played every minute in all 5 FA Cup ties for the Red Devils this season, en route to Saturday's showpiece, as he scored 3 and assisted 2. Fernandes is expected to start either as a false 9, where he's operated in recent weeks with Rasmus Højlund beginning on the bench, or in his favoured number 10 role, and Guardiola has acknowledged the threat that Manchester United's number 8 could pose to his City side at Wembley. Discussing Manchester United's threat in forward positions at his press conference on Friday, Guardiola said they have actions from brilliant players up front. Alejandro Garnacho, Marcus Rashford, Rasmus Højlund, or of course Bruno Fernandes. Where he has the ball, everything happens. Bruno's influence is outstanding, unbelievable. Today saw a few games, the last games, and I said this guy's creativity is one of the best I've ever seen. They have experience and everything. If I lost a lot of central defenders, I'd be in trouble. This is the reality. Guardiola's comments come just a few months after Fernandes labelled the Manchester City boss as the best coach in the world, without a shadow of a doubt. Fernandes, who received the Sir Matt Busby Player of the Year award for the 3rd time in his Old Trafford career on Thursday, has spoken candidly in an open letter to Manchester United fans in the Players' Tribune ahead of the FA Cup final, as he encouraged every Red Devil to show their support one last time this season. I want to say a few words from the heart before this FA Cup final. I know that it hasn't been an easy season for you. We haven't been up to the standard you deserve. We haven't always matched the support you've shown us. As the captain, I feel that more than anyone, and it's not a responsibility that I take for granted. This club is more than just something that I can put into a nice quote for social media. It's something that I care about deeply. After this difficult season, it's my responsibility to give more. It starts with me and it starts tomorrow. We have to give everything in this last match against City, and we have to move forward. We're on our way to Wembley. Get behind us one more time. In the same open letter, Fernandes has also issued an update on his future amid recent reports linking the playmaker with Bayern Munich, Inter Milan, and Cristiano Ronaldo's Al Nassr. Next up then, we are going to go to some transfer news. Manchester United loanee Sofian Amrabat has opened up on his future at the club, stating that staying with the Premier League giants is an option. The Moroccan international joined the Red Devils on loan from Fiorentina last summer in a deal that includes an option for United to sign him permanently for 21 million if they choose. Amrabat hasn't had the best of seasons, and he's made 21 Premier League appearances for United this season. Only 10 were starts, many of which saw him playing out of his preferred central midfield position. Nevertheless, the 27-year-old played a crucial role in the Red Devils' FA Cup final win over... So to repeat that, Sofian Amrabat hopes to stay at Manchester United next season. They have a £21 million buy option, but of course, he hasn't really been a key player this season. Next up then, Erik ten Hag, hopeful of a quintuple injury boost for the FA Cup final. But before that, we will talk about Manchester United centre-back Harry Maguire, as he's admitted that he doesn't know if he'll be fit for Saturday's FA Cup final against Manchester City. The 31-year-old missed Manchester United's last 4 Premier League matches of the season due to a muscular problem, Red Devils head coach Erik ten Hag said that Maguire had a fair chance of being available for the clash with Manchester City when he addressed the media ahead of last weekend's game at Brighton. However, Maguire has admitted that he's unsure whether he'll pass a fitness test to be able to be named in the squad for the game with Pep Guardiola's side. Obviously, it's disappointing and a frustrating time to get injured, Maguire told Talksport. I still don't know if I'm going to be fit. It's going to be a late one. I'm hopeful to be fit for the squad for the FA Cup final, but it'll be touch and go. Maguire was heavily linked with a move away from Manchester United last summer, with West Ham believed to have had an offer accepted for the England international. However, he chose to remain at Old Trafford and battle for his spot, and the ex-Sheffield United youngster managed to regain the trust of Ten Hag over the course of the season. Maguire has had his fair share of fitness issues this season, but he's made 31 appearances in all competitions, scored 4 and registered 2 assists in the process. Rafael Varane and Lisandro Martinez were Manchester United's first choice centre-backs last season, but the former's leaving on a free transfer at the end of June, while the latter has spent most of the season injured. Mason Mount has been pictured back in training for Manchester United, suggesting that the Englishman could be available for the clash with Manchester City. Victor Lindelof has been out since the end of March and wasn't involved in Sunday's game at Brighton, but he's also in training and could make the squad for the final. Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford, Varane and Martinez are all available following recent fitness problems, but Tyrone Malacia is definitely out due to a long-term knee problem. Luke Shaw's also highly unlikely to feature due to a muscular problem, which could yet rule him out of representing England at this summer's Euros. Anthony Martial is now fit after recovering from a groin injury, but the Frenchman's set to leave on a free transfer next month and isn't expected to be in the squad this weekend. Next up, then, we will stick on the subject of Harry Maguire as Manchester United head coach Erik ten Hag has revealed that Harry Maguire will be unavailable for Saturday's FA Cup final against Manchester City. Maguire missed Manchester United's last 4 matches of the Premier League season due to a muscular problem, but he was expected to be fit for the clash at Wembley. Ten Hag has officially ruled the centre-back out of contention this weekend, with his injury not healing as expected. The 31-year-old will end the season with 31 appearances in all competitions for the Red Devils and said on Wednesday that he was unsure whether he'd be available for the final. However, he's set to be fit to represent England at Euro 2024, with Maguire seemingly only just missing out on an appearance against the Premier League champions on Saturday. There's positive news on the injury front, though, as Victor Lindelof, Mason Mount and Anthony Martial are set to be available for selection this weekend. Lindelof has been missing since the end of March, while Martial hasn't played since December. Mount has also been unavailable of late due to an unspecified issue, but the trio could be in the squad. Harry Maguire is unavailable, but the rest, all the players you mentioned, they are, I think, available. He's talking about Lindelof, Mount and Martial. As he told reporters at his pre-match press conference, we have tomorrow the final training and then we have final decisions. But as I oversee it now, it looks good. Ten Hag denied that Maguire had suffered a setback in his recovery, with the Englishman simply being unavailable to recover from his muscular issue in time. I don't think so. It's just he doesn't make it. It didn't heal as we expected. Tyrone Malacia and Luke Shaw are also set to be absent this weekend, with the latter seemingly failing to recover from a muscular problem of his own, and he's also a major doubt to represent England at Euro 2024. It's all about trophies, but you need opportunity to win a trophy. So last 10 years, not so many trophies in this club, but we have an opportunity to win 2 trophies in 2 years, Ten Hag added. Every game I want to win, and that's it. I just focus on this game as I do for every game. I know it's an important game as it's about a trophy. I came here to win trophies. Saturday, the next opportunity, we achieved this. We earned this opportunity as a team, and now we have to go for it. And in the same time, in the last 2 years, of course, after every season, you review it, and we will see where we are in the project. Things we have to change. We spoke lately about it. Very good things. Players coming up, values coming up, and on Saturday, we have a big opportunity to win the next trophy. Should Manchester United win the FA Cup, they will qualify for the group stage of next season's Europa League, but a defeat would leave them without any form of European football for next season. Next up then, we will move to Mason Mount as he was back in training for Manchester United on Wednesday, with the Englishman seemingly having a strong chance of returning to the Red Devils squad for the FA Cup final. The 20-time English champions will be bidding to end what has been a largely disappointing season on a positive note when they tackle Manchester City in the final of the FA Cup on Saturday afternoon. A win for Manchester United would see them land domestic silverware in successive seasons and also secure a spot in the group stage of the Europa League. However, a defeat would leave the club without any form of European football next season, and it could potentially prove to be Erik ten Hag's final match at the helm. Manchester United have had huge injury problems this season, but their squad has been boosted of late, with Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford, Rafael Varane, Willy Cambuala and Lisandro Martinez all back to fitness. Luke Shaw's losing his battle to be available for the FA Cup final, with the left-back having a setback in his recovery from a muscular issue. Meanwhile, Harry Maguire has admitted that he doesn't know whether he'll be available, as the experienced centre-back is nursing a muscular problem of his own. Mount has missed Manchester United's last 3 matches with an unspecified issue, but head coach Ten Hag insisted earlier this month that the playmaker hadn't suffered a serious problem. The 25-year-old was able to train alongside his teammates on Wednesday and suggested that he could be in the squad for the clash with the Premier League title winners. Mount has struggled with a number of injury problems this season, as he's been restricted to just 19 appearances in all competitions, while he's only managed a goal and an assist. It hasn't been the season that Manchester United or Mount would have expected, but he's capable of having an impact in the clash with Manchester City. Mount, if he is in the squad, is likely to start on the bench, but if Manchester United can stay in the contest, his energy, desire and work rate could be important in the latter stages. The Englishman's only goal for the Red Devils came off the bench late on against Brentford at the end of March, as he demonstrated his quality in the big moments during his time at Chelsea. Mount managed 33 goals and 35 assists in 195 fixtures for his former club, as he famously won the Champions League in 2021. Manchester United will need to be near perfect in order to beat Manchester City on Saturday, and the expected return of Mount is hugely positive news for the 20-time English champions. Next up then, Manchester United head coach Erik ten Hag is hopeful that Victor Lindelof, Rafael Varane, Bruno Fernandes and Marcus Rashford will all be available for the FA Cup final against Manchester City. Lindelof has been out since the end of March with a hamstring problem, while Varane has been absent since being forced off against Chelsea at the start of April. Varane's exit from Old Trafford this summer has already been confirmed, with the ex-France international set to leave on a free transfer. Lindelof's also being linked with an exit, with the Red Devils believed to be open to offers for the Swede. The two centre-backs are on course to return to action before the end of the season, with Varane potentially featuring against Brighton on Sunday afternoon. This was written by Matt Law on the 15th of May. Varane ended up coming on in the 69th minute. Fernandes and Rashford could both return to the squad against Newcastle on Wednesday night, but if they're not involved, the pair are expected to feature against Manchester City. Fernandes started that match and came off in added time, and Rashford came on in the 83rd minute. Lisandro Martinez, meanwhile, has recovered from a calf issue and is set to be included in the matchday squad for the Premier League clash with Eddie Howe's side. You have to see here at Carrington, players are desperate to play, Ten Hag told reporters ahead of the clash with Newcastle. I see Licha Martinez, I see Bruno, who did a fitness test on Sunday, to play. Rashford did everything he could. He trained and tried to train last week but couldn't make it. So players are desperate to play. They want to be in the right shape. You also see Victor Lindelof, Rafa Varane. They're training to make themselves available for the final. You do what you can do. However, both Luke Shaw and Harry Maguire could potentially lose their battles to be available for the final. Shaw has had a setback in his recovery from a hamstring issue, while Maguire recently picked up a muscular problem which has made him a major doubt for the clash at Wembley. Tyrone Malacia is definitely out until next season, while Anthony Martial's unlikely to play for the club again, despite returning to training after a groin operation. Mason Mount was absent against Arsenal on Sunday due to a minor problem, but he's expected to be available before the end of the season. Amad Diallo was also forced off against Arsenal last time out with a knee issue, but the Ivory Coast international could be in the squad against Newcastle. Manchester United manager Erik ten Hag is reportedly considering dropping one of the Red Devils' serial silverware winners for Saturday's FA Cup final against Manchester City. During the Dutchman's debut campaign, Casemiro formed a highly effective midfield partnership with fellow new arrival Christian Eriksen as the Red Devils marched to Carabao Cup glory. Even though Eriksen has slipped down the pecking order this season, Casemiro has remained the mainstay for the Man United 11, often partnering the embryonic Kobbie Mainoo in the middle. However, there's been a noticeable drop-off in the 32-year-old's performances this season, particularly when he has been asked to fill in as a central defender during the Red Devils' injury crisis. Casemiro occupied such a role in the FA Cup semi-final with Coventry, where Ten Hag's men blew a 3-goal lead and nearly lost in extra time, only to scrape through via a penalty shootout. The former Real Madrid man was a standout performer in Manchester United's final match of the Premier League season, as he played a pivotal role in their clean sheet in a 2-0 win over Brighton. Despite his praiseworthy display at the Amex Stadium, the Athletic claimed that his starting place is in serious danger for the Wembley trip, as he has been missing from the expected first 11 in training sessions this week. As a result, some of his Manchester United teammates are supposedly under the impression that Casemiro will be among the subs from the first whistle, in spite of the fact that he completed the full 90 in each of the Red Devils' final 8 Premier League games of the season. The report allegedly states that the Red Devils squad aren't entirely happy with the proposed decision to axe Casemiro from the starting lineup, as the Brazilian international has won a staggering 21 major trophies for club and country during his distinguished career. Casemiro has come up with 5 goals and 3 assists in 32 matches for Manchester United during the season and has 2 years left to run on his contract, but he has been strongly linked with a summer exit. Each of Casemiro's final 6 Premier League starts for Manchester United came as a centre-back this season, and he was chosen to partner the fit-again Lisandro Martinez at the Amex. Martinez, who is Manchester United's most important central defender, is now seemingly nailed on to begin the FA Cup final, and even though Harry Maguire won't be fit for the match, Ten Hag is still spoiled for choice when it comes to out-and-out centre-back. Both Johnny Evans and Rafael Varane were able to come off the bench in the second half of the Brighton win, while Victor Lindelof has also been spotted in training this week after a thigh problem. Teenage starlet Willy Camboire as an alternative pick. Further forward, Ten Hag is apparently leaning towards the midfield pairing of Mainoo and Sofiane Amrabat as the duo he selected from the off against Brighton, as the latter has belatedly found his feet at Manchester United. Consistently struggling to impose himself since arriving on loan from Fiorentina, Amrabat put in strong shifts against Arsenal, Newcastle and Brighton, and could now make his final start for the club before heading back to Italy. Manchester United will be bidding to win the FA Cup for the 13th time in their history when they take on Manchester City in the final of the competition on Saturday afternoon. The Red Devils posted their worst ever Premier League finish of 8th this season, but they will qualify for the group stage in next season's Europa League with an FA Cup triumph. Manchester United will enter the clash with the Premier League title winners off the back of a 2-0 win over Brighton on Sunday afternoon. Here I have rounded up Manchester United's latest injury and suspension news ahead of the clash with Manchester City, who only have one player out of the final. Mount has missed Manchester United's last 3 matches with an unspecified injury, but the Englishman is back in training and is set to return to the squad for the FA Cup final. Maguire missed the end of the Premier League season due to a muscular problem, and the centre-back has also been ruled out of this contest. Lindelof has been absent with a hamstring issue since the end of March, but the Sweden international returned to training last week and should make the squad for Saturday's contest. Malacia is bidding to recover from a knee injury which has required 2 separate operations, and the Dutchman won't be available for Man United until next season. Martial underwent a groin operation in January and recently returned to training, and he's an option for head coach Ten Hag this weekend. Shaw will miss out on a spot in the squad for the FA Cup final due to a muscular problem, while the left-back's also a doubt to represent England at Euro 2024. So I will go to the predicted 11 then, as Manchester United will be without Harry Maguire for Saturday's FA Cup final with rivals Manchester City at Wembley Stadium for the clash. The 31-year-old defender missed the Red Devils' final 4 Premier League games of the season due to a muscle injury, and manager Erik Ten Hag has since confirmed that he's unavailable for selection this weekend. Tyrone Malacia remains sidelined with a long-term knee injury, and Saturday's game will presumably come too soon for Luke Shaw with a muscle injury, Victor Lindelof with a hamstring injury, Anthony Martial with a groin injury, and Mason Mount. However, they've all taken part in training this week and should be available for selection. Rafael Varane has already confirmed that he will be leaving Manchester United this summer, and after recovering from a muscle problem to feature as a second-half sub in last weekend's 2-0 Premier League win at Brighton, the defender will be hoping to play in some capacity at Wembley. Whether Varane is fit to start remains to be seen, so Casemiro could continue in the heart of defence alongside Lisandro Martinez, who recovered from injury to start against Brighton for the first time since February, while Diogo Dalot and Aaron Wan-Bissaka continue as fullbacks. Andre Onana is also expected to retain his spot between the sticks. Sofiane Amrabat has forced his way into the lineup in recent weeks and may keep his spot in central midfield alongside Kobbie Mainoo, but Scott McTominay could make way if Ten Hag opts to start with an additional attacker and recall striker Rasmus Højlund, who has scored in his last 2 sub-appearances. The potential inclusion of Højlund would likely see captain Bruno Fernandes move back into his favoured number 10 role, while Marcus Rashford, who has been omitted from England's provisional squad for Euro 2024, but scored United's only goal in a 3-1 defeat at the Etihad Stadium in March, will battle with Amad Diallo and Alejandro Garnacho for a start on either flank. So the predicted team for Manchester United is Onana in goal, Wan-Bissaka, Casemiro, Martinez and Dalot as a back 4, with Mainoo and Amrabat in midfield, Diallo, Fernandes and Garnacho behind Højlund in attack. Finally then, we will move to the prediction. Back-to-back league wins have provided Manchester City with a morale boost ahead of Saturday, and the motivation is there for Ten Hag's men to beat their local rivals, win silverware and qualify for Europe. But can anyone back against the juggernaut that is Manchester City? The citizens have already proven in recent weeks against Spurs in the league and against Chelsea in the semi-final that they don't have to be at their majestic best to come out on top when it matters. Guardiola's relentless squad are almost at full strength and are performing at a superior level to our Red Devil counterparts. We're rightly the favourites and should outscore our opponents en route to retaining the FA Cup. So my prediction for this game is Manchester City 4, Manchester United 2. So that is it for this video then. Everybody, thank you all so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. Dugout Daily, the football channel. Hit the Apex DF1 channel, and at MCFC Hibs on Twitter. Everybody, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll speak to you all soon. Take care, and goodbye for now. Cheers, everyone.